Got it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Couple minutes. Okay, I'd like to welcome participants to the virtual planning board meeting of October 12th. At this time, I'd like to make a call to order. Ms. Creighton.
Here.
Ms. Delicio.
I think she might be muted.
Here.
She's there.
I'm here.
Okay.
Ms. Foley.
Here.
Mr. Gilbert, I don't think he's coming. Mr. Olney.
I'm here.
And Ms. Tenney.
Here.
Okay, thank you. Looks like we have a quorum tonight. I'd like to remind all board members and guests to ask to be recognized by the chair if they wish to speak. This meeting is being recorded. The first item I have on the agenda is receipt of correspondence. And Gail, correct me if I'm wrong, the only thing we received is a public hearing notification from Gloucester.
That's correct.
Okay. At this time, I will allow public comments on items not on the agenda with a limited time. Anybody from the public wish to speak?
Ron, this is Christine. I have a question about the correspondence.
Yes.
So I actually corresponded with Gail. There was a resident that reached out. I'm not sure if it's the transition with Helene and Gail. I'm sorry, was something funny?
Sir, I know the answer. The answer is when there was the transition, they cut me off totally and I had no connection with, I kept saying, why am I not getting any emails on my town account? But after about 10 days, after you very, very astutely found that I hadn't been getting my mail, Sandra Network came over and they put me back online. So who knows what happened in those 10 days because I have no emails from that 10 days.
Okay, well, that wasn't really my concern. My concern was, I don't know who the public should send emails to. When we look at our webpage, Sue Brown shows up first, and I think that's instinctively that's who people would send to. But I would like to request some kind of an update when the board, when someone would like to send something to the board, I think there needs to be some further instruction on what to do and who to send it to. We have a chairman, we have 2 admin, we have a town planner. I don't think people go to our webpage and say, if we would like this distributed to the board, who do they send it to? So a resident reached out to me. We still haven't seen that correspondence. I'm not sure if Gail spoke to them, but they did send me something. I know Mr. Cross sent us all something. I don't know why that isn't showing in correspondence. So I'm just a little concerned about the accuracy of the correspondence that we're receiving to date. Not because of Helene's, just in general. So I'm not sure why we're not gathering this information properly, but I think we need to do a better job. So does anyone have any recommendations, or who is that person at this point? Helene, Ron, is it you? Is it Gail? I don't even know.
I believe all correspondence should go to Gail for distribution to the board. If the correspondence is intended to go to the board, it should go to
Okay.
Gail, and so she should be able to distribute it to our meeting packet. I think
Okay, so
that's
is
the
that
procedure.
clear on the website that if someone would like something?
That I don't know, but that's a good point, and I will talk to Greg about clarifying that, making that known so people can correctly get information to us.
Thank you. So do we know where I did not want to be the person that distributed it. So Gail, did you speak to Jeff Karpowicz? Did he email you something to distribute to the board?
No, the only thing he requested something from the zoning board of appeals. He didn't request anything from the planning board from me. And I had already forwarded the decisions he requested from ZBA. So I have had no further correspondence with Mr.
Karpowicz, he actually, I think there was a correspondence that maybe was lost with Helene's email that was asked to be distributed to the board.
I think that, I'm not to butt in, but I do believe that's right, because I went looking for it and all I have is a blank in my emails. It's like I didn't even exist. I tried to restore them and they just, whatever happened, how I got quote down during that period, I never received anything, which I find very scary, but I didn't get anything. So I'm sorry. I have nothing to offer.
Helene, can you see who they were from or no? it's just-
Nothing. I got
no.
nada.
Okay, that's fine.
No.
So what I will do at this point, at least one piece of correspondence that I know of, I have from Mr. Karpowicz, I will forward to Gail and ask her to distribute that from the board. He was looking for some clarification with a project that we approved. And so we'll take it up at a later meeting, but I did not want this to go another 2 weeks. But then again, I guess Mr. Cross's email. So we all received that. Gail did not receive that. So what is the procedure if someone forwards something not to Gail? So I mean, we need to talk about these and.
So what you have to do is you have to make believe I don't exist.
I
And
I
send to
mean, if-
Gail.
yeah, well, Mr. Cross on his own, I assume sent to each individual planning board member. So I guess we all got it. And it should be placed in our meeting packets for next meeting, because I believe it's on the agenda. So I will review correspondence and send to the whole board and make sure Gail is copied on it. And I will talk to Greg about having some kind of note or some kind of indication on our website that that's the way the public can communicate with the board, the entire board, through Gail.
Okay, great. Thanks, Ron.
Thanks. Mary, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, I just checked as you were talking that I believe all planning members received a correspondence from Lorraine Iavani on, I think it was 10/4. So, and Gail was not on it, yet the town planner, Greg, Concom, all sorts of people. So how does that fall into our correspondence category?
Again, I will try to get a note on our website that it would be easy for the public to send one piece of correspondence to Gail for distribution rather than distributing it themselves. But if they do, I will forward that to Gail, just for completeness.
So in the meantime, if something comes to you as the chair, will you deem that as correspondence?
If it's addressed to the planning board, I will distribute it to the planning board. If it's meant for the whole board to see, I will do that.
And then that will be listed as correspondence at the meeting?
Yep,
Okay.
that will be the procedure. So Gail would list the correspondence, either that was forwarded by me to her or that came to her directly. Okay. We're a little early for the public hearing on Tux Point, so I'll skip out of order and jump to the minutes. I noticed, Gail, you today got the September 27th minutes in, and the September 13 minutes have been in for a while. Has everyone had time to review at least the September 13th minutes? And are there any corrections or changes? If not, I'll take a motion to approve the September 13 minutes as written.
Ron, I submitted the first line of the minutes say called the BOS meeting. So I had submitted that to Gail that it should be planning board meeting.
Yep, I noticed the same thing on the September 27th meeting minutes.
Yeah, it's the same on that one as well.
Yeah, I did notice that. So Gail, we're the planning board.
I also sent 2 corrections to Gail. It wasn't in, the corrections weren't in the minutes in the folder, so I don't know if you want me to go over them or if Gail has them.
I have them.
And are they de minimis or are they substantial?
They're not substantive.
Okay. So I'll take a motion to accept the minutes as amended.
So moved for September 13th.
For September 13th, correct? Is there a second?
I'll second.
Roll call, Ms. Creighton,
Yes.
Ms. Delicio,
Yes.
Ms. Foley,
Yes,
Mr. Olney,
Yes,
Ms. Tenney.
Ron, I believe those meetings are still before I joined. So, because I have not seen those meeting minutes.
Okay. One abstention and chair says yes. So we'll accept the minutes of the 13th. Anybody have any, has anyone read the September 17th, September 27th? Or we'll just pass over that till next meeting.
this is Mary. I've read them. The only comment I had was the BOS.
Okay. Well, if that's the case, I will take a motion to accept the minutes of September 27th.
Excuse me for just a moment. Are these coming by email? The last set I have is July 26th.
They're in
So
the
maybe I'm
meeting
looking at the
packet.
wrong
They're in the
place.
meeting
They're
folder.
in the meeting
The
packet.
meeting folder, okay.
So the folder under meetings.
Okay.
And thank you for whoever put 2021 as the start of the folder name. Easier to find. So I'll move the approval of the minutes for September 27th as amended.
There's a second,
I'll second that.
and the roll call, Ms. Creighton,
Yes.
Ms. Delicio,
Yes.
Ms. Foley,
Yes,
Mr. Olney,
Yes,
and Ms. Tenney, were you on that one?
I have not seen the meeting, so I haven't seen the minutes. So I'll have to abstain from that one. Thank you.
Abstain, and the chair votes yes. Okay, great. I have 6:43. Didn't want to start too early. Got 2 minutes. Any subcommittee or liaison reports?
How early are we? Do we want me to talk about the blasting? Or do you want to stick on schedule?
I don't, yeah, if it's within a minute. Where do
Not
we
about
stand?
that.
Did you say it would be a minute or is it some more substantial?
I can start. I met with the fire chief. I had a chat with Mr. Cross and oh,
Can people mute their lines? Go ahead.
I think what the intent of the past bylaw is that the amount of blasting that would occur that was passed in the spring meeting would in fact have a hearing. So it would take some language, not much, to the general bylaw language to add a hearing for those called out, criteria. And I think everything else as far as the fire department would stay the same. Nothing would change on the fire department. It would just be minor language change to the general bylaw that would require a hearing, which we do at some point. I think we just need to add the criteria.
So is there a proposed language?
No, not yet. I just was giving you an update. I mean, it passed as is, but the proposed language, or the language that passed, said that we're gonna come up with some regulations. So that's on us, right?
Yeah. So I
So-
was hoping you could come up with something draft or something
So
like that.
what I think what the solution is to, the intent of this bylaw was to make sure that abutters had input at the time of the proposal, and that a hearing would be required. And the footage, 100 feet, 200 feet, 500 feet, that hasn't been determined. That's something that we need to talk about. I could come up with something, and I will come up with something. I just wanted to make sure I was on the right path and didn't spend a lot of time on something that people were going to not agree with.
Well, I'm looking at the article, at least as written, and it does not specify a public hearing or a butter notice. It simply says that the board, which is
We'll come up with regulations.
is going to is that we will conform to guidelines that we promulgate.
Mhm.
So I don't think that this anticipates a public hearing and a butter notification. Just, I think that we may choose to do that, but I would think that might be a bit of an overstep of what is, it does say that it requires a 2/3 vote of the board in our consideration of the blasting permits. But it does not require a public hearing or a butter notification.
No, it doesn't. Those are, we're expected to come up with something. So it's up to us. It doesn't say that. That's our job to come up with something.
So did you get any input from Bill Cross or the fire chief on some draft language?
Well, the fire chief said he's not coming up with anything. He's sticking with the state says, and I think that's absolutely correct. But yes, I did talk to Mr. Cross, and he would like to ensure that residents have input, more input than normal that has been occurring in the past. I think when we, watched the school blasting, it was very minimal. I think the intent is to have a opportunity for abutters and residents and neighbors to have a voice. So that is what I heard from Mr. Cross. So I think it's on us at this point. I mean, we can do what we want based on the input from Mr. Cross and the the bylaw that was passed. So this is the time, and we can talk about it a later time, but it's up to us what we want to, if you would like me to come back with different language from Mr. Cross, but I don't know if it's his at this point. I think it's ours.
I agree
Okay.
that it's ours to write the regulations, and I don't see public input as one of the intents of the warrant article, but we can discuss it when we have something more specific guidelines proposed, then we can modify them.
Okay, Christine, can you come up with a draft? What do you want us to?
Well, if I'm
do you
hearing
want-
that that's not the intent, I don't want to waste time drafting something. That's why I was trying to get a little feedback right here. So I spoke to the proponent, and that was their intent. So I don't want to go back and forth and waste everyone's time. We're pretty darn busy. So
Well,
So I guess
I
sorry, Ron.
I think we need something to kind of start and
okay,
then
but no
maybe.
problem. I will come up with something to start. I was actually looking at it, and I think there's a section that we can just add to, but this isn't our place to change the general bylaws. It's to come up with regulations. It's aside from, we're inserting something, right, into the general bylaws. That's not us to change. We have to come up with some kind of,
Yeah, so if I was hoping the fire chief would have some kind of input on this, but sounds like he's gonna lay on the state law. He's gonna rely on that, so.
well,
uh,
the bylaw the warrant article as written is a little circular. So
Mhm.
there's not much for him to lean on. So
I mean-
I'll look at it. I will come up with something and
Do we want to say, you know, certain?
we'll take a look at it.
ban
I'm not gonna spend a lot of
certain-
time on it because I feel like we're already in two different directions. So I'll give us a starting point.
I mean, there was some concern of the chemical that was used, and concern for the water supply. I don't know. Well, I heard that mentioned at town meeting, but anyway, let's come up with something that the board can look at, and then maybe we can
Okay,
go from
no
there.
problem.
All right, thank you. Helene and Mary, you both have your hands up. I assume that's from the past.
You broke up for a second. I'm sorry.
I'm
Ron. Could you
sorry,
just repeat that?
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
All right, let's move on. At this time, I would like to open the continued public hearing, which was opened on September 27th and continued to this evening on Tux Point special permit. Application of Jeffrey Caneb for a special permit under sections 7.5 and 4.1.10 of the zoning bylaws for an existing float and ramp system previously approved by the Manchester Conservation Commission and Harbor Master and installed in 2019 at 9 Tux Point Road, assessors map 22, lot 20, zoning district E, in order to file for a mass waterways license under chapter 91. A draft decision has been prepared and placed in SharePoint for review by the board. Do board members have any comments on that decision? Are there any comments from the public? May I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Is it seconded?
Seconded.
Roll call, Ms. Creighton,
Yes.
Ms. Delicio,
Yes.
Ms. Foley,
Yes.
Mr. Olney,
yes,
and Ms. Tenney.
Yes.
May I have a motion to approve the decision for special permit under section 7.5 and 4.1.10 of the zoning bylaws for an existing float ramp and ramp system previously approved by the Manchester Conservation Commission and Harbor Master and installed in 2019 at 9 Tux Point Row, assessors map 22, lot 20, zone district E, in order to file for a mass waterway license under chapter 91. Looking for a motion to approve the decision.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Second. Roll call, Ms. Creighton,
Yes.
Ms. Delicio,
Yes.
Ms. Foley,
Yes.
Mr. Olney,
yes,
Ms. Tenney.
Yes.
Okay. The decision will be filed with the town clerk within the next 14 days.
Thank you all very much. I appreciate it, as does
Okay,
Mike. Have a short
Okay.
evening.
okay, enjoy your ramp.
Ron, do you want me to
Yes.
send the notice to the abutters? The notice of approval? They need to have that within the first 20 days so that they can appeal if they wish. It's
Okay,
something that has to happen.
okay. Make it so. Thank you.
Okay, and I will deliver tomorrow, I will deliver this decision, which is already in final form, to the town clerk, and the board members can all go over to the town clerk and sign it. Okay?
So run that by me again. We have to, I
Okay.
thought everyone has to sign it, or can I just sign for the?
No, you can sign the A&Rs, but as far as decisions on special permits are concerned, the entire board has to sign it. So if they would go to I'll bring this there about 3:15 tomorrow. And they need to all, well, at least 5 need to sign the approved decision.
All right, everybody got that? Great. Okay,
I didn't hear everybody. Did they get it really?
I think
I'm
so.
sorry, I'm a very much of a nag and I can't help it.
Helene, I think we all got the message.
Okay, I'll bring it over tomorrow, 3:15. It'll be ready for their signature.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, the next item on the agenda before we open the public hearing on the warrant articles is a discussion of the scope of the warrant articles and a vote on the proposed articles we want to put forward to town meeting. So at this point, I know Alan is on, or at least I saw him earlier. Yes, there you are. And Sarah and Chris. So I don't know, Sarah, did you want to open up or and explain why what we're proposing to do?
Sure. I think everybody is up to speed, but we had not talked about it with the full board. As we said last meeting, we met with Alan regarding the November town meeting, and then he joined our working session about a week ago. And Harrison came as well. Again, reiterating that they want keep the town meeting, which is November 13th, as short as possible. And really ask that we focus on the simple articles. So those are the renumbering and the deleted items, and that we would table the article to replace sections 1 through 4 and to replace section 7 with an administrative section 12, which has some expanded content from what is currently in section 7. So it's our recommendation that we only open the public hearing tonight for the article about renumbering and the article about deleted items, and that we not include the other 2 longer articles, and that we not open a public, that we don't include those in the public hearing. So I guess those articles, at least in the material that's on the website, were just arbitrarily assigned to be PB1 and PB2 in that document that we put on the website. But they're really the article for renumbering and the article for deleted items, and not the other 2. That makes sense to people?
Yes, and Alan, would you care to comment on the brevity on the concern for town meeting?
Sure. A little bit of background. I was appointed to a committee of the Massachusetts Moderators Association in the spring of 2020 that was charged with developing a guide for moderators on how to conduct a town meeting safely during the pandemic. And it was a good panel, and we came up with a good set of recommendations. And in the course of doing that, I did a lot of research into the issues of how COVID spreads and how you can mitigate that. Scientists are unanimous, they were then and they still are, that when you have a large gathering with a lot of people in a relatively small space, the risk of infection is based on 2 factors: exposure to the virus and the length of time that you're there. And so my desire is to keep this meeting as short and simple as possible, with the minimum of discussion necessary to deal with the town's business. Certainly the risk is less than it was in spring of 2020. A lot of people have been vaccinated, but it's not over, as we all know. As of last week, the Board of Health reported that 80% of Manchester eligible residents have been vaccinated. That means that 20% have not. And that's been pretty steady for months. It's been in the 77, 78, 79, gradually creeping up, but not going significantly higher. We also, right now, again, according to the Board of Health, as of last week, there were 6 active cases. I haven't kept a tally of that, but that's one of the higher numbers that I can remember. So the bottom line is, while we're doing everything we can, and I'll be publishing a public health protocol for this meeting after the Board of Health has had a chance to review it, I don't think it's risk-free. I think there is a pretty good chance that there will be people in that meeting who have not been vaccinated, and possibly even some that are infected, because people can be infected and have no symptoms, so they don't know they're infected. So my conclusion from that is I want to keep the risk as low as possible. I think my first priority as moderator is to send people home safe, uninfected, and healthy. And the best way we can do that, along with all the other precautions we're taking, is to keep the meeting short. And I've been encouraging the Board of Selectmen and proponents of other articles to do the same.
Okay. Thank you, Alan. So on Sarah's motion to withdraw the two articles, I guess they're PB 3 and 4, and just keep the deleting article and the renumbering article actually in for town meeting. Is there a second on that motion?
Yeah, I'll second it.
Is there any discussion?
Get ready for April.
Okay.
Let's hope we can do it in April.
Okay, I'll take a roll call vote on the motion. Ms. Creighton,
Yes.
Ms. Delicio,
Yes.
Ms. Foley,
Yes,
Mr. Olney,
Yes,
Ms. Tenney,
Yes.
and chair votes yes. Okay, so at this time, I'd like to open the public hearing on
Ron, excuse me, if I could, I've
Yes.
said this in several different places already, but
Yeah.
I want to just say it again. I really appreciate the board's cooperation in limiting their submission for town meeting. I know you've been working on this recodification, as has Sue Brown, for a long time, and you must be getting pretty anxious to begin to wrap it up. And so I really appreciate your consideration in deferring those other articles.
Okay, thank you, Alan. Appreciate it. Okay, at this time, I'd like to open the public hearing on warrant articles for November town meeting on October 12th at 7 p.m. via Zoom pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 48, Section 5 of the Planning Board is holding a public hearing on the following amendments to the Manchester zoning bylaw. 1, PB1, to see if the town will vote to amend the zoning bylaw by deleting sections 1 to 4.4.7 and inserting new section 1, purpose and authority, section 2, district, section 3, use regulations, and section 4, dimensional relocate regulations, and inserting a new zoning map.
Ron, I'm gonna interrupt you for a second. We made an error in the last vote because that is PB. We want to make sure it's that you're reading the wrong one. So my error. We do not want to open that section.
Okay.
So we don't want to open that. We want to start with what's PB3, and I don't know if we need to revote. Let's close. I don't know how we haven't voted to open, so I think we're safe to just revisit that and make sure that everybody is clear that it's actually what it was listed as.
Deleting section 7 and adding section 12. Is that the one?
No, that one, we're not using that one either. It's the renumbering and the deleting of the sections. I'm
To see
sorry.
if the town will vote to amend the zoning bylaw by adding a new table of contents and
No.
renumbering and
Yes.
reordering all sections accordingly.
Yes. Thank you.
That's the only one.
And
Okay.
and to see if the town will amend the zoning bylaws by deleting the numbered sections. 6.6, 6.8,
6.10, 6.11, 12, and 6.14.3, and 6.20.1.
correct. Thank you. Sorry.
Okay. The
Ron,
purpose of the,
Excuse me, I'll be happy to stay on if you would like me to, but I suspect my attendance is not essential for this part, so.
no, not, thank you, Alan, for explaining, and thanks for coming in.
My pleasure. Thank you again to the board.
Okay. The purpose of these amendments is to make the bylaw easy to read and to administer and to delete invalid and obsolete sections. Text of the proposed bylaw amendment is available for inspection or review during normal business hours at the office of the town clerk, town hall, and on the Manchester by the Sea website. The links on the town website and the Zoom meeting were listed in the legal notice. These articles were advertised in the Cricket on September 24th and October 1st and were mailed on Tuesday, September 28th to abutting towns and agency posted in town hall and on the web on September 28th, and a copy was given to the assessors. At this time, I'd like to turn the hearing over to members Chris Only and Sarah Creighton for comments, for board comments.
Do we need to vote to open the public hearing?
I don't think so.
Okay, great. Can I share my screen?
Yes, you co-host.
Okay. You see that? Planning board articles.
We see it.
Yeah, I see it.
Okay, Chris, you want to start with what we were trying to do here?
Sure. So I'm going to hold up for everyone to see this orange book, which is our current zoning bylaw. It is about 100 pages long. It's pretty confusing. It's broken into 7 sections. The first 5 sections are about 40 pages long, and they're really the heart of the zoning bylaw. Those first 5 sections establish why we have one. They set out various zoning districts, of which we have, I believe, 5 residential districts, a general district for the downtown, and a limited commercial district across 128. The rest of those first 5 sections have to do with uses allowed in each section, what the dimensions should be, where buildings can be placed on lots, and other details about how land can be used. The next 60 pages are special provisions, and those have been more recently added. They include things like overlay districts for water drainage and for flood control. They establish special rules for clustered residential development. They even do things like, well, just various silly things like solar arrays and windmills. These have all been done in the last 10 or 15 years. And the thing about the zoning bylaw, which is makes it complicated, is that each time we want to change it, it requires 2/3 vote of the town meeting. And articles are drafted and submitted without really much thought as to how they're going to fit into the existing bylaw. So someone has a good idea to say, create clustered residential development, and so they just toss it into the zoning bylaw. So what we'd like to do is reorganize it so it makes more sense. And so all the special districts are in one special section, and all the other special provisions are in their own section instead of scattered all the way through the bylaw. And once we have that kind of under wraps so we can figure out how to read this thing, then we can start making adjustments to make the zoning bylaw more coherent and more congruent with the master plan, which is something that we've been trying to do for the last couple of years. But we're not going to do that at this town meeting. All we're going to do is renumber the existing bylaw to create new sections and make the thing more understandable. And then we're going to delete a few things which are just nonsensical or impossible to enforce or illegal. We can go into that in a second. But that's basically what we're up to here. And I guess if anyone from the public has any questions about this, we can.
Well, yeah, I'd like to take input from the board first, Chris, and then
Sure,
open it
yeah.
to the public.
should we finish going through the articles before we
Yes,
comment?
yes. I'd like to finish going through this first and then have board comments and then public comments.
Okay, so we did create 4 articles that were posted in the public notice and at the town hall to keep, as you just heard, if you were here earlier, to keep town meetings short because of the pandemic. Working with the town moderator, we will be only doing 2 of them that we think are much simpler for town meeting in order to try to keep town meetings short. So those 2 are, the first is to reorder the bylaw, and the result will be a new table of contents, and this is a summary of the overview of what that table of contents will be, how it will be organized. There's no change to sections 1 through 3 and portion of section 4, and then the back side of section 4 gets renumbered and distributed across, as does mostly 6, 7, current 6, 7, and 8 gets renumbered into these sections, which like solar and wind just go into section 11 instead of being where in the midst of all this other stuff. So specifically, the article is to see if the town will vote to amend the zoning bylaws by renumbering the following sections and their associated subsections and including references to the sections. And the following changes will be made. So some of these sections, 4.10 has subsections. It will be renumbered to 8.1 and associated subsections. And if there is a reference currently to section 4.10 in the bylaw, we will search for that and appropriately reference it to the new section. And so the in order to facilitate the renumbering, we've left section 7 blank because section 7 becomes section 12. And then we've created a special regulations, a special residential regulations, special districts, and energy regulations sections that are, as you can see by looking at it, are a compilation of things that are scattered mostly through the end of section 4 and through section 6, which is very lengthy. And to authorize the planning board to create an associated table of contents. So that's the first one. And then I'll take them both together, Ron, if that's okay. And then we can take
That's fine.
comments. The second one is to see if the town will amend the zoning bylaw by deleting the following sections. 6.6 reflecting antennas, 6.8 planned residential development district. And I added in here those subsections so there's no confusion. 6.10 water resource protection district, which is actually blank in the existing bylaw. 6.11 development scheduling, a sewer connection limitation. 6.12 division of land and development of multiple dwellings. And 620.1 temporary moratorium on recreational marijuana establishments. The public notice did also indicate that we would delete section 14.3, but we've removed that from the list until a later date, and it's actually included in this renumbering section. It's now going to be in a subsection of 9.4. So these two are linked only in that way. Chris, do you want to just go through the ones, and I've separated out 6.11. So you want to just explain why why we recommend deleting these?
I can do that. So the first one, reflecting antenna, these presumably are the things you stick on your patio to pick up television stations. No one puts them up anymore, and actually no one would get a building permit to put one up anyway, so it's really a sort of a useless zoning restriction. If the town wanted to regulate reflecting antenna, they probably shouldn't use zoning, they should use some other a separate bylaw to do it. The planned residential development district, there are several sections in the existing bylaw that regulate residential development. The reason that this one is worthy of being deleted is because it only applies to parcels of land that are greater than 50 acres, and there really aren't any in town anymore. So it's really not a functional or useful mechanism for controlling residential development, especially as there are many other parts of the zoning bylaw that do regulate it. So this is both unnecessary and duplicative of what's already there. 6.10, as it says on the screen, is an old district that's been replaced, and so there's no point in having it. 6.12, so this Attorney Bobrowski pointed out to us that a special permit cannot be used to regulate a subdivision because we already have a subdivision control bylaw that does that. So it makes no sense. It's not a useful mechanism for controlling bylaws. I'm sorry, for controlling subdivisions. 6.220.1. This one may be somewhat controversial. I don't know. This was passed back in, I think, 1987. It imposed a moratorium on sewer connections. Oh, is this?
You know, the marijuana.
Marijuana
I'm
is,
sorry, this is marijuana. So marijuana, you know, we can't, the state law won't allow us to have moratoriums on marijuana businesses. So we have to allow it somewhere by special permit, and that's the case of the LCD. So we should just simply take this temporary moratorium off the books. And then the final one, this is the one that might be somewhat controversial, only because there's a citizen's petition to do something like this already. And this is something that was passed in '87 to control the number of sewer connections that could be allowed in town. And the reasoning for deleting this is because something as open-ended as this bylaw or this zoning regulation is not legal. You can't just simply limit the amount of development in the town for any reason. So, and since sewer connections are really not part of the zoning bylaw anyway, it doesn't make any sense to include it as part of the zoning regulation. If the town wanted to somehow regulate sewer connections, should be done by a separate bylaw. So that's the rationale for deleting these sections.
okay, and then I'll just close by saying we did indicate at the beginning that we have worked hard on a number of proposed bylaws. So if people are interested in those, they will be coming again. And one of the things we've done is come up with a use table that summarizes all of the uses allowed in section 4. This is going to go up on the website as a resource for folks. It's not zoning, it's simply a summary of zoning. This is one page of what many, but if you're a zoning nerd, you can dive into the table, and there'll be an opportunity for, if you have comments, to make it better. So when it does go into the bylaw, we're hoping that that will be an opportunity to make it better. There will also be a summary of the parking regulations, and we're hoping that will be a good resource for folks. So Ron, anything else, Chris, you want to?
Yeah, I just want to add to the zoning, this use table, which is this, actually this table replaces about 12 pages of narrative in the zoning bylaw, which is impossible to follow because it's incremental. It says if a piece of land in the SRA district is also allowed in the SRB, the SRC, the RD1. But it's so to understand what's allowed in, say, RD1, you have to go back and look and see what's allowed in SRA, SRB, and SRC. And that's just very cumbersome. It's much easier to present it as a cell in a table. So that's why most towns do it this way instead of the narrative way.
So please, we'll be up in a couple shortly, and we invite people to give us feedback on it. It is not zoning, it's simply a tool. So I'll stop sharing and we can come back to things.
All right, thanks, Sarah and Chris. You guys have worked pretty hard, very hard on this, and it's appreciated. I'll take any comments from the board on this first. Anybody from the board wish to make a comment or a statement?
Hi, Ron, it's Mary. I have some comments.
Yes,
First, a couple of comments, questions also. Thank you, Chris and Sarah, for doing this. It's a lot of work and spent many hours. Where are these documents that this PowerPoint? I haven't seen the kind of renumber and regrouping. I didn't see them in the recodification folder, so I'm just trying to figure out where I can access those.
I think that this article is in the recodification folder, but I'll put this PowerPoint up too, that because this is the latest language.
Yeah, that'd be great. And I wonder if it makes any sense to also clarify that this is regrouping and renumbering, not that it changes it, in any other way, but honestly, that caught me tonight of like, oh, it's actually being regrouped and retitled. So maybe highlight that. I have comments on 6.11 and 6.12. 6.11, I have great concern for it to be just automatically in the delete section. It was actually enacted in 1989, Article 40, and there was specific purposes for it being enacted, and some of the same issues that we're still facing with water and sewer capacity. So it is out of compliance because it's an article that doesn't have an end date on it. I would like for town council or Mr. Bobrowski to guide us how we could get this into compliance. So that technicality is the only reason it's illegal is because it doesn't have an end date. You can have bylaws like this for a direct and finite purpose. So I'd like to explore that option. And we do still have the state consent order. I don't know who wrote up this zoning bylaw section 6.11 history, but the DPW has not lifted that. I don't know what this means. The DPW has agreed to approve in the spring, dependent upon. Anyway, the DPW knows nothing about that, so I'm not sure where this information was coming from. So I have great concern with getting rid of 6.11 outright. I think if we want to explore that in the spring, have some meetings on that, that makes more sense than saying it's out of compliance when we should explore how to get it in compliance. I do have other issues with 6.12. I need to do some more research. I know Mr. Bobrowski in his diagnostics had listed a court case, but 40A does spell out you can, in cases there are special permits when you do subdivision. So I'd like for us to get some more detail on those. Those are my comments. Thank you.
any other comments from the board? Any comments from Sue?
Sarah has her hand up, Ron.
Oh,
I
sorry.
just wanted to
Yeah.
point out that we do need to, I believe, move these and vote the language tonight so we can get them to, I think the Board of Selectmen is finalizing the warrant Thursday night. And so including 6.11 and 6.12, I think would be appropriate because we can always take them out. If we don't include them now, if we want to, when Mary has more information, we don't include them, we can't add them back in. So we can remove them in a motion on the floor. You understand what I'm saying? We can remove the deletion. Remove them from those that are being deleted, but we can't add them back in. So I would suggest that we leave them as part of that, both those sections or any sections, unless there's a clear reason that we've made a mistake, that we be as inclusive as possible in the language so that we can modify it only to make it less, do fewer things. Am I making myself clear?
Ron, you're muted.
Understood. Better to go with everything, and then we can pare it down if we have to later. Okay, Christina, you have your hand up.
Well, I guess Chris was right. There is some controversy on 6.11, and I, no surprise, agree with Mary on this. I feel that this was brought up. We haven't resolved it. We don't have enough data because it's open-ended. Yes, it is illegal because of that minor fact, but it doesn't negate the fact why it's on the books. And I don't think we have enough information, and therefore I don't think it should be included. And I think we're jumping the gun, and I obviously think the opposite way. It should be taken off and not included.
Okay. All right, before the public, Sue, Laura, I'm sorry, didn't see your hand up.
Thanks, Ron. I'd just like to say that I support the deletions as presented by Sarah and Chris. They are the language that our consulting attorney has recommended to us, and the fact that they are illegal and that there are controls elsewhere in the zoning to do what I think we're trying to do to provide, the guardrails that we're looking for. But our consulting attorneys have said that this language should come out because it's illegal. I don't think you can be a little illegal. I think you're either legal or not legal. And so I would take that recommendation, and I would support leaving these deletions in the package.
Okay, thank you, Laura. Before I go to the public, Sue, any comments?
I agree with Laura. I think that we should follow the recommendations of our attorney and the town's attorney, who has weighed in and agrees with Mr. Bobrowski's recommendation that that is illegal. And it's not just a technicality. It is simply illegal because you can't, not that you need an end date, but that the end date has to be tied to a function, an action that the town is taken to correct something. And there is no action the town is presently taking to correct anything. It has already taken the action. So I agree that you should follow the recommendations of the council, town council, and the attorney that has helped with this project.
Okay, thank you, Sue. All right.
Ron, if I may, we
yes.
have taken the action, but the actual action hasn't been lifted. Until it is, it's still a consent order from the state. And so if we need to tie that to language that says, this is in place until we get a letter from the state, then so be it. But we don't have that yet. And Mr. Bobrowski wasn't given all the information, and he didn't give us alternatives. He just said it's illegal. He didn't explore any options. The conversation didn't happen. Therefore, until we explore this further, I'm pretty adamant that this needs to stay in until the state lifts the consent order, and we have it in writing that it's lifted. I don't know why we would go back and, just ignore what's been on the books without that documentation. It doesn't make any sense.
Okay.
Ron, this is Mary. Could I ask, being the board that needs to decide this, it's really important to have all the information that we can. Can we see town council's decision on this? I never saw that.
I don't, I can ask.
That would be great, because Mr. Bobrowski brought this up, gosh, probably, well, it was actually May of 2018. So it would be good to see what our town council has said about it. And I think that would help us process through this.
Okay, thanks. Sarah?
Another comment, sorry. I'm just reading the purpose of that section. And it's to not exceed the ability of the town to provide adequate public services to safeguard health, welfare, and safety. So I think that the fact that our capacity has now been significantly increased, that rationale is no longer valid, as well as the mechanics of a moratorium that is open-ended.
Okay, thank you, Sarah.
Ron, this is Mary, and I could potentially agree with all of that, but I think it needs to be a discussion with the board and potentially with the public that, on its own, not just grouped in with a bunch of deletions, and kind of discuss the merits of it and where we are with, perhaps have DPW come and talk to us and say, this is exactly where everything is. This is the state consent order. This is, why DPW recommended this back in 1989, all of those factors, so we could determine if it should go or not.
Okay, thank you. Any comments at this point? I'll turn it over to the public, and any public comments. Sandy, could you identify yourself?
Hi, Sandy Rogers, 82 Old Essex Road. Just some points of clarification. You are still holding a public hearing on the 25th, and on the website, the zoning articles for the November town meeting or the hearing notice. Let's see, I just want to make sure I have this. The hearing notice.
The public hearing on the 25th is for 2 citizens petition articles.
So there's planning board articles. So that's the other link. It says draft September 22nd, and it said articles will be reviewed at October 21st. So that draft, that document has everything renumbered as you are recommending to bring to town meeting, and there are no adjustments to that, correct? So that's what we should be reviewing before that meeting.
I don't know which one you're referring to. Sarah, do you have any?
Yeah, we will, now that we've voted that we're gonna limit the scope, we will amend that posting on the town meeting website, so we can probably get that done tomorrow. So it's just the renumbering and the deleted options, because you're right, it's confusing. We had big plans, and we've limited the scope to simply the renumbering article and the deleted items articles.
Okay, and the reorganization and the renumbering, one of the things that I had noticed from the discussions in the past is that there aren't a lot of ands and ors. So did someone go through this and like, are they holistically moving and changing numbers, and you're not changing any of the wording and any of the implications that if something's allowed or not, that all of those ands and ors have been reviewed?
Ron, if I may.
Yes.
The reason that we have limited the scope to just I'm adding in the word regrouping and renumbering is exactly that, so that the substance of allowed uses or process for special permit or criteria for special permits do not change. The only thing that changes is where on that table of contents a section lies.
Okay, and then there was something about adding things at the end, like with this use case, but you've eliminated any additional use cases that you were initially intending to add to the use cases, and that would be done in the spring or whenever you get to the zoning changes that you're working on. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you for clarifying. And I'll look for that update to review. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Sandy. Any other public comment? Okay, may I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Oh, Ron. I
Yes.
had my hand up for a while.
Sorry.
Okay, I think it's important to vote to withdraw without prejudice the warrant articles that were listed in the advertisement for this public hearing that you are not considering this evening.
Okay, thank you. At this point, I'd like to take a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Ms. Creighton,
Yes.
Ms. Delicio,
Yes.
Ms. Foley,
Yes.
Mr. Olney,
Yes.
and Ms. Tenney.
Yes.
Okay, chair votes yes. Okay, so I'd like to have a, I'd like to vote on the two articles that we want to put in the warrant. And then a vote on withdrawing the two articles that were listed, but we are now withdrawing.
Without prejudice.
Without prejudice. So can I hear a motion for the,
So Ron,
I-
if you give me 1 second, I can pull up the public notice and actually put that in so we make sure the motion is correct. So hold on, if you just. It's a little bit sloppy, but hold on. Okay, I'm going to share my screen here. Sorry, a little bit unformatted, but can you see that? To withdraw without prejudice the articles to, and these were right from the public hearing, to see if a town would amend the bylaw by deleting sections 1 through 4 and inserting sections 1, etc., and to see if a town will amend the zoning bylaws by deleting section 7 and adding a new section 12. So that's the first motion, is to withdraw without prejudice those two, and that, I guess I would say as advertised in the public advertisements.
Can we
Is there a
get away
second?
with so moved here?
So I'll move that.
So move that.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, I'll take a roll call to withdraw these two articles as written and as shown. Ms. Creighton,
Yes.
Ms. Delicio,
Yes.
Ms. Foley,
Yes.
Mr. Olney,
Yes.
and Ms. Tenney.
Yes.
And chair votes yes, so we'll need to get that notice out to the public that we're taking those out, hopefully tomorrow. And Sarah, if you may, put the ones.
So why don't we start with this one and maybe take them separately? I added in the word regrouping and renumbering the following sections and their associated subsections. including references to said sections, and the following change will be made. I want to I assume that town council will review these before the warrant is finalized. And they may have some more legalese on this, their associated subsections. So that's the best I could come up with. But so I'll move that we advance, that we recommend to the Board of Selectmen, or we ask to put this, like, what do? We ask this to put the following article on the town warrant for the November 13th town meeting as presented on the screen.
Is there a
And
second?
I'll second that too.
Okay, motion been made and seconded. Any discussion?
I had a couple questions. This is
Okay.
Mary. Just going back to the one that we just voted to withdraw, I mean, we don't have to put an what the actual article number was.
I don't
We
think,
don't
I
know.
don't think, those were
They're
articles
not-
just that were for our, those were not in the public hearing. I took that article I just came up with, I took right out of the public notice.
Okay. And then my question with this, so just looking at this sheet now, so you know, we're renumbering section 4.1 to 8.1, yet we're not referencing that we are removing something from section 8. I mean, I'm sorry, section 4. Is that fine? Because now you're not having a 4.10 in section 4.
Correct.
Correct. But there'll be a 4.1 to 4.9.
Oh,
Right, but
no,
are we
it won't. They
being-
will actually, the 4.7, 4.8, 4.9, I'll move.
Oh, I'm sorry, they moved it somewhere else. That's right. Sorry, there'll be
So I guess
4.1.
my only question, are we being crystal clear that, you know, this regrouping and renumbering is
So,
getting rid of like a sections?
to answer that question, I can show you, it's a little bit to unshare here, but that I went through and went through the revised bylaw and went line by line. And if you start in section 5, because that's where the changes, that's not true. This is prior to us just going to renumbering. So let's start just at section 5. And I went through and actually pulled, after Chris and I did track changes, I pulled out every section and enumerated what the new table of contents would be. So you actually can see that if we delete 410, 411, and 412, they will be deleted, and 413 and 614, 613 and 614 are blank, and because they're blank now. So I think we'll have some blank sections, but that we have them now. And we decided to leave blank sections because it reduced the amount of renumbering. Blank sections are kind of innocuous. So.
Yeah, and I have no problems with this. I'm just trying to anticipate any questions or angst from people saying, okay, well, you're saying you're doing this, but now all of 410 is really gone, but you're not clarifying that. Do you know what I mean? Like, does it get back to needing a matrix? Is it just, am I making it too complicated?
I think maybe you're making it too complicated. If we're going to delete anything, we'd have to say so. And we're not, we're just renumbering things.
And the table of contents will say intentionally left blank.
Okay, okay, thank you.
That's very common. And we did that because the renumbering would be double. So, maybe not double, but whatever, more. So, Ron, I think I moved that we.
Yeah, the question, and so any further discussion? I'll take a roll call vote if there isn't. Ms. Creighton,
Yes.
Ms. Felicio,
Yes.
Ms. Foley,
Yes.
Mr. Olney,
Yes,
Ms. Tenney,
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Okay, that's warrant article 1 from the planning board and warrant article 2. Sarah, do you want to put it on screen? Oh, it's on screen. Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna actually, just to be crystal clear here, I'm gonna delete this section. I move to see if the town will amend the zoning bylaws by deleting the sections as enumerated on the screen.
And I'll second that.
Okay, but motion's been made and seconded. Is there any further discussion?
Um,
I'd like
I
to
would-
amend it to remove 6.11.
There's a motion to remove section 6.11 from the deletions. Is there a second?
I second.
Any discussion? Okay, roll call vote on removing section 11. Miss Creighton,
No,
Ms. Delicio,
Yes.
Ms. Foley,
Yes.
Mr. Olney,
No,
Ms. Tenney.
No.
Chair votes no. Okay, on the original motion to been made and seconded. Any further discussion? I'll take a roll call vote to warrant article P2, I guess I'll call it. Ms. Creighton,
yes,
Ms. Delicio,
No.
Ms. Foley,
No.
Mr. Olney,
yes,
Ms. Tenney,
Yes.
and chair votes yes. Okay, so we'll get those 2 warrant articles out to the public. And we'll get rid of the ones we are withdrawing. The next item on the agenda is the recodification roadmap committee. I know there's 4 bulleted items. Chris or Sarah, any comments on that we haven't heard already on this? going
no, I
forward?
think we will do a very short article for the cricket for next Tuesday, just to summarize what we're doing. And unless the people, we're directing people to the website. And I mentioned the zoning use table. I think we'll be able to get that up on the website as a resource shortly.
Okay, and then Sarah, the zoning maps,
Oh, right, sorry.
we want to talk to Sue or where they stand.
Well, I think, yeah, one of the things that we want to do that has a lot of lead time perhaps for April is to get new zoning maps. So maybe simply to ask Sue to figure out what we need to do for that. If there's a budget that we need to ask for, and maybe get back to us. I just want to keep it on the list of things. So, because there's probably a lead time. So that's, I don't know if we need to take any action tonight, but just to get it on the list of recurring things that we're paying attention to.
I would point out that the existing maps in the zoning book are atrocious and impossible to read. So anything we can do to make those better will be a good thing.
Well, and plus they are referenced by, they should be referenced by date and, engineer. So to change and put a new zoning map in will require amendment to the zoning, I believe.
So Sue, is there a budget for that, or can we move forward on this?
I have some professional services, some funding in my professional services budget. And if I could get it done within that amount, or less than that amount, we'll go forward. I think I may be able to find budget for that if it's not more than $5,000 or so. So, but maps do creep up quickly.
Yeah.
And I wonder, I know that right now they're referencing maps, and I wonder if we can create a clear, crisp map that's similar to what we have on our website, our site that anyone can access online, made similar to that, and make the outlines of the districts that are, and note that they're recreated from the map, the previous map. So I probably need some legal advice on how best to put it in the zoning book bylaws. And then the making of the map is another thing. So it may still need to reference where they come from. But I think if we can create one map where they're all overlaid, that would certainly be, I think, everyone's goal.
At one time, I think Gary Russell had some expertise in this and he had volunteered. I don't know if it could work reaching out to him, but okay, just mention that.
Ron,
Yes,
this is Mary, the question,
Yeah.
don't we have about $10,000 left over from the recodification vote?
There is still $10,000 in that that may be needed for what we're doing in the spring as well. So that could be considered a source as well. But I have other sources.
Yeah, because I thought the 10,000 was kind of slated for the maps, for the formatting, and for the printing of the recodification.
It really didn't say what it was for. It just called it out as a project, so it could be used for that.
well, see if we can use yours first. So we'd like to have some reserves.
You're welcome.
Okay, Christina, you have your hand
So
up?
I do. So I'm not sure, Sue, who has control over like our map geo? Can we control? Do we change that ourselves?
No, we pay a consultant service to create that and to update it. So I would reach out to them, tell them what I'm looking for, and they will give me an estimate. Usually their estimate says you can have this many, we'll do this many, back and forth, this many drafts. And if they don't get it right, it goes up. But
Is the map geo not correct at this time?
no, it is correct, but they would be creating a new map, a zoning map. And if they have all the layers, it may not be as expensive as I anticipate, but it might be.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks for the update.
Oh, sorry, Ron, I have one other piece just to add to
Yes.
the update. As we're talking, I'm making a list of that I'll put on the zoning recodification. I'll create a folder called April Town Meeting and a list of items that we have already identified that are sort of low-hanging fruit, as well as those that are potentially more complicated. And just circling back to the prior discussion, there are at least 2 board members here who feel strongly that a sewer moratorium is appropriate with an end date. So I've added it to the list, and if people want, and my envision is that if people want to advance something, regardless of what it is, that we create a process that issues could be advanced. I think the rationale for deleting it out of the bylaw is that in its current form, it's illegal. We didn't really discuss whether a moratorium is appropriate or not, at least. So I have added that to the list for April so that we can have the discussion about that at least 2 members would like to have on the appropriateness of a moratorium.
Thanks, Sarah. That makes sense. Okay, we have an update on the SLV proposal. Sue, did you want to just give us an update on what Mass Housing came back with on the applicant?
So I think everyone understands that the Mass Housing Finance Agency has produced the letter of eligibility. I know that I understand the board has been notified and all the documents are they're there for the review. The town has put in an application to Mass Housing Partnership to secure a consultant to help the Zoning Board of Appeals and other boards as needed to way through this process, to help with the process, to help as needed in at meetings, and to help secure peer review consultants for the various components that the ZBA will be looking for peer review. I'm hopeful that we may hear by the end of the week that that consultant can start working with Sarah and her board. But I don't have any other information. I think folks already know that the first meeting is October 26th. They have 30 days to open the meeting, to open the public hearing. 26th or 27th. I don't have it in front of me. 26th, I believe.
Okay, thank you. With that in mind, I'd like to have a planning board rep attend the zoning hearings, and I would like to recommend that Chris Only, with his housing background, be that rep if he would so choose it.
Sure, I'll choose it.
Thank you.
I'm giving you an air high five, Chris, for that one. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina.
You'll be tied up for years. No, only kidding.
Actually, I have a question for Sue.
Yes.
So Sue, the MHFA in their letter seemed to acknowledge a lot of issues that had been raised during this process. And is it my understanding that at this point SLV has to address each of those in their presentation to the ZPA?
Yes, so what comes from the Mass Housing Finance Agency is that these are the concerns that would be raised, and we would anticipate that we would expect that SLV would address those issues. It doesn't mean that they will come to an answer that's satisfactory, but they at least have to address them. So I think it is an area that we would expect communication on and peer review, and for some consideration to be given for those.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Sue. Thanks, Chris.
Can I just ask, we were invited to give any additional input. We already wrote a letter. I'm not sure we have any new input. Is that letter on record and sufficient, or should it be resubmitted?
I think it's sufficient for now. I think once Sarah meets with her consultant, they may be able to guide her to what they might want from specific boards. So I don't think that you really, other than reviewing the material and just kind of preparing, I think there were some changes, but I don't think they were substantial. But I'm sure that they'll want testimony from the board at some point in their public hearing, and I'm not sure how it will be structured at this point. But
okay.
Can I ask a question, Ron?
Go ahead, Christina.
So I did hear that the town is offering training for the ZBA. Would it make sense for Chris, if he's available, to listen in?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, and it may be that all boards might be invited to listen in, and they may want to do them. They may want to meet with boards separately. So I won't know that scope of what the consultants will be able to do, how much he'll be able to meet with other boards, or if they'll be one large training session or something that's recorded. But once we have him on board, we'll kind of find out what the best what that's going to look like in terms of getting everybody familiar with what to expect and how to participate, etc. Yeah, good question. I'm
Okay.
hopeful that we'll have them by next week, have someone by next week.
So is that not
If
town
not,
council? It's not Attorney Witten?
It is not an attorney, it's someone separate. But the town always also has town council available.
So who is can I ask who the consultant is?
So they have not told us who it would be yet. We asked for, they had a list of 4 consultants to choose from. It was the first one, well, Judy Barrett was our first choice. And then Ezra Glenn was the second choice. And then there were 2 others, but it's largely based on their availability and how much work that they've got done. But all of the consultants do trainings. They're very highly qualified. So MHP will let us know who is available for us.
Okay, thank you. The Cornerstone Church site visit, I know Sarah set up a doodle poll, and apparently it was just for next week or this week. And Sarah, can you give us an update on?
I think the big problem is
applicants?
that the Cornerstone Church people, we had, most people could come at the Friday afternoon, I think. But the Cornerstone Church consultant was unable to come. So I think we sort of start over.
Yeah, do they have a preferred time? Did they
Yeah,
give you?
maybe
a
we start
day?
with them. I don't know. I think people are more available first thing in the morning or late afternoon. So maybe Sue, you could reach out to them and get a handful of times that they can meet. And
I am not available first thing. I am not available until at least 4 o'clock. So after 4, I'm pretty good, but until then, not so much. And weekends for me are kind of shot until after Thanksgiving. So
could always
Laura-
meet before town meeting.
yeah, no, absolutely.
Laura, is your schedule out for early mornings as well? Are you better? Or
Really depends on the day. Friday is the most flexible for me.
Oh,
So
okay.
early in the morning or late afternoon on a Friday can work next week. Some days I'm in Cambridge and I won't be able to be there.
Maybe Friday afternoon, late afternoon.
Friday afternoon on the 22nd could work. If that works for Christina and others.
The 22nd does work for me.
I can check with all.
I'll
of
try
them
for
and-
4
Well,
on the
why don't we-
22nd.
Oh, no, it doesn't. I'm sorry. It doesn't. I'm sorry. I'm in town, but I do not. I'm sorry. No, I knew that. I knew I had issues for many weekends. So my apologies.
Maybe Thursday, the 21st at 4. Or maybe we could take it offline too. I don't want to take up too much time here. but
Exactly.
Yeah.
Will anything short of a full board work? I know it's always best to get a full board, but
Yeah, I think we can work that. Let's find out when
If you all go
when the
and maybe
applicant can go.
record something and send it, that would be good too.
Okay. That's it. Anything else on Cornerstone? Just informational on Cornerstone. We'll be reopening the public hearing in November. Or continuing the public hearing. So on the next item, just wanted to get the board's concurrence on the language on the Tobacco Road. The language as written says the planning board finds that the exchange of land to allow for the relocation of a portion of Tobacco Road will serve the town by increasing and improving the buffer area between a roadway and the town's primary drinking water supply. The board therefore recommends approval of the land transfer to the town of Hamilton. That's the language we propose to put in. Any comments or concerns? Otherwise, I'd like to vote the language.
Ron, this is Mary.
Yep. Go ahead, Mary.
I actually have quite a few concerns. I guess I'd like to get, I'll just go down and then I guess we can talk about them. I'd like to get a better understanding of what the recorded conservation's restrictions are, if somebody's put that together. It does say that it's a change in use, and then it's saying amending the conservation restrictions, so I'd like to understand what the change and what the amendment is. It's mentioning improvement of a stormwater management, yet in an attachment to the NOI, they're basically not doing any stormwater management. They said that combined with the road's proximity to wetlands and elevation constraints, the high degree of difficulty in installing any stormwater treatment devices. So their recommendations on the rendering is basically to have it flow across the gravel portion of what is Tobacco Road right now. So I have concerns with that. It's not mentioning any salting. I don't know what it mentions being paved and thus less sedimentation, but it doesn't mention salt issues. Gravelly pond, just as a side note, gravelly pond is spelled incorrectly. So stormwater management is a big issue for me, and wanting to understand the conservation restrictions more. Oh, and the other, it says a 40-foot wide public way, yet in the NOI it says 20. So what's the discrepancy in the width? That's it for right now.
Any other comments from the board?
I would think that it would be important for the Board of Selectmen to have that inconsistency appropriately addressed. But I still I will move the language as presented.
Is there a second?
Seconded.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion?
I am very uncomfortable with this. I will not be voting in favor of it. There's lots of concerns. I think the town could have taken a better position on this and explored and used some of our own money and ensured that our drinking water supply is protected. We have not done that. The NOI is deficient. The conservation restrictions are very minimal. I don't think we as a board or we as a town or we as water commissioners are protecting our water supply. So yes, we are moving the road, but that is not the intent and that is not the purpose of what Hamilton wants. Hamilton wants a paved road at all cost. And I think our drinking water supply is going to suffer. And I don't think we're doing our job.
Thank you.
The traffic is going to increase. The residents are in concern. There's 50 units going at one that are presuming that this road will be paved. There's a lot of concerns, and we're just kind of poo-pooing this, in my opinion, and not researching it. We're not doing our due diligence. There's a lot of concerns. So I'm not in favor of this language. I do not believe we did our due diligence, and I'm concerned.
Okay. Thank you, Laura.
Yeah, I just want to state that for the record, I don't take water conservation or water quality lightly. I do understand stormwater management and the act of moving the road further from the wetlands and the water supply will be a benefit to stormwater management. So I want to just take issue that anybody on the board would take this lightly or sort of give it the wave to pass it. That's absolutely not the case.
Thank you, Laura. Any other comments?
I have
Sarah?
I think we are not endorsing we're not standing in for the Concom, which if their NOI has deficiencies, the Concom will act on them accordingly. So I don't think we're not our affirmative vote does not stand in for a Concom vote.
So the Concom vote was done before it even came before us. So it was filed at the Salem District Court. It was done. So this was already, it's filed and it's incomplete and it's inaccurate and there's no checks. That is the concern. We need to be the check and we're not being it. So we need to raise some flags and show some concern. So we are not listed as the owner. There's no stormwater management plan. There's a lot of issues. And we're just saying we're okay with it, but we are the final line.
So Then I guess
So,
I'll stand corrected. If the Concom has made a decision and we have not appealed it, then it stands within the appeal period, then I believe it stands, whether
It
it's.
does stand and it's
So-
deficient. And there has been inquiries to say why. We are not listed as the owner. There's no stormwater report on record. So going forward and not having a stormwater management program on file is an issue. So I'm not sure how we can go forward and just say there's a report, but there's no, if you've read the report, it says they're basically going to do nothing. They're going to, there's hundreds of pages, and the report says, yeah, we're doing the best we can, but you know what? This is Hamilton and Manchester. It's kind of your job to raise the white flag and say, hey, come on, but we're not. And I don't know whose job it is. Maybe this is why I really need to be more advocate for the Water Resource Commission, but no one is kind of defending Gravelly Pond. Everyone's defending this right to have a road, and there's 50 units on one end and people need a paved road, but this road has never been paved. So in my opinion, the right to have a road and the right to have $1 million grant, I think we have a right to have clean drinking water more than the right to have a paved road. And I don't see that conversation, and I don't see any evidence of why moving the road protects Gravelly Pond. I just don't see the evidence. No one has shown me that.
So we voted this already, this
And
issue.
I'm telling you, the language is not, the language is
And
not true.
the town of Hamilton said that Woodward and Curran would prepare a stormwater management plan, but they were going to not want to waste their money, and they were going to spend their money when Manchester, if they find out if Manchester is in favor.
So waste their money. They don't want to waste their money
Ahead
to
of
protect our
time, if there
drinking
wasn't.
water.
If
Really?
they're-
Did you just
no,
hear yourself, Ron?
They're going to
Waste their
prepare
money.
a storm. You didn't listen to me. They're going to
Listen to them.
prepare excuse me, I didn't interrupt you. Don't interrupt me.
My apologies.
Mr. Olson said that Woodward and Curran would prepare a stormwater management plan, but Hamilton wanted to wait to spend the money until they find out if Manchester is in favor. So they're going to prepare a stormwater management plan. Number two, the Hamilton Concom will then weigh in after that. At least that's what Greg has indicated to me. So, and then during the presentation, we had 2 engineers insurance, including our own DPW. And thirdly, the board already voted this. So all we're asking now is for the language. And I think there's a motion and been seconded on the language that I read. And I will now, if there's no further discussion, I will take a roll call vote. Any further discussion?
Ron, my only other discussion would be that the corrections should be made before we vote on the language.
So I heard a correction on the 40 by instead of a 20. I think I took that language from the presentation, so I'll have to check that, but I'm happy to double check the width of the right of way. Was there other language that?
So I believe it was my motion. I'll amend my motion to and authorize Sue Brown to modify the language in our
Right of way width?
modify the right of way width to make it accurate if necessary.
I believe it's 40-foot easement and 20-foot pavement, maybe that's the discrepancy, but remains to be seen. Okay.
Also, just one other thing, Gravelly Pond is spelled incorrectly.
Thank
But,
you.
I think, Chris, you seconded it. Would you accept my
Well, I thought Laura did, but
Laura?
Yeah, I believe I did. I'm just wondering if to address the concerns raised, if we want to add to the language, just that the a condition of the approval will be the preparation of a stormwater management plan.
That will not be done by town meeting. So that's moot.
Well, I think we're saying that the approval is with the expectation that a stormwater management plan will be prepared, and then that gets reviewed by Hamilton Concom.
But we're voting in 4 weeks, which they're waiting for us to vote.
But I think that Laura makes a good point to add into the a sentence that says, it is our understanding that a stormwater management plan will be prepared by the town of Hamilton subsequent to the vote. So
Well, is
I'll
there
take
been
that
a s-
amendment as a friendly amendment.
So if they're gonna prepare it, well, are we concerned about it? Do we want to review it? Just prepare it? And it's good enough and our drinking water is just going to,
Going to be vetted by the Concom of Hamilton.
their Concom.
Yeah.
It's our drinking water. It's a precarious situation and it's strange. So I think it takes
Okay, a
a little
motion's
bit
been
of
made.
extra
Okay.
effort.
We've made, the motion's been made and amendment, and the amendment, has it been seconded with Laura's language?
Yeah, I'll make that, I'll amend my motion, and presumably Laura will amend her second.
Seconded.
So we're
Okay,
just
roll-
voting on the language with the addition of the stormwater.
I'll take a roll call vote on the motion. Ms. Creighton,
Yes,
Ms. Delicio,
No,
Ms. Foley,
No,
Mr. Olney,
yes,
Ms. Tenney,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. Okay, town planner report. Any comments on the town planner report? Want me to put it on screen? Let's see.
I have one comment. This is Mary.
Go ahead.
With the housing opportunity MAHT sites and DPW, I just have a concern that that survey isn't going out townwide. It seems just pockets of people, and I do think it would be a townwide survey.
Yeah, so Mary, the survey is town-wide in regards to the DPW site. And then we made another survey that was specific to the neighborhood residents of the site, asking what their specific concerns were. So the general questions about do you support it and given information is available in the same way on the one that's for everyone. And that's I'm working with Tiffany to get that up and posted and pushed out tomorrow. But we also wanted to do specific outreach to people within the neighborhoods, the direct neighborhood abutters. So it is a townwide survey. Chris, did you want to
Okay.
add anything?
So I just wanted, so it's because I went looking for it and it's not on the town website, correct?
Right. We put it in the letters that were sent to the neighborhood residents. Did you get yours?
Did I get a letter?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so we wanted to get those letters out first, and now we're putting it out. So I'm trying to coordinate with Tiffany on getting those on the website and also putting information in the Cricket and others.
So if I could clarify, are there 2 surveys?
So they're just slightly different because in one survey it asked who are you in what neighborhood do you but, so we can track and see if there are different concerns between people at Newport Plains or at Newport, the Plains, or Loading Place Road. So we made 2 surveys, but they're very similar. And they both get to the crux of whether or not you would support that and whether you support the DPW, using the DPW site. Chris, do you want to add anything?
no, that was gonna be my housing report, but thank you for, thank you for saving the time.
Okay, thanks, Sue. Any other comments on the planning's reports?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So what defined a neighborhood, number 1, and number 2, I thought that that joint committee was going to come speak to us, especially maybe before town meeting. Is that on a future agenda? We had talked about Ron, you scheduling with Sue and.
Run this by me again. I wasn't listening. Can you say that again?
They were supposed to come before us and
Who
give a
was they?
presentation.
Who?
The housing
MEH.
authority, the joint committee that's proposing the work. Yes, they were supposed to come present to us. We've talked about this for many meetings.
Oh,
So I didn't know where that stood, if we have a meeting scheduled, and I would like to know what defines a neighborhood. What defines is it adjacent, a butters, like exactly 100 feet, 300 feet, like you needed to touch the properties? What was that?
So I think the abutters list that I used, I think I went 1,000 feet generally, but clipped it off if it was 1,000 feet, but it touched the back of a property that was on an entirely different road. So it was I think we started with 1,000 feet and then clipped, and in some cases added some because it was along the same road, but maybe not within 1,000 feet. So the board kind of went over that and adjusted that, and we sent it out. So like I said, the one that's, there is one out there that can be for anyone, and that's the townwide one. And it's labeled the DPW, but it has the same very similar questions as to the others. In one case, we're asking, what specifically do people like about the neighborhood as it is, and what are their concerns if it should change? In the other case, the more general information that we want to know is, do you support in general the theory of using the DPW site to support this redevelopment?
So is there a date that the Affordable Housing Trust is coming to present?
Chris, I know we've talked about it.
We've talked a little bit about it. It's, it's complicated because I'm not sure exactly what we'd say that you don't already know. And you'd ask questions that we're going to say, we don't know yet. But maybe it's good to get a dialogue going anyway. And if maybe the planning board should invite the housing authority and the Affordable Housing Trust to a meeting.
No, I think we've done that. I think we're waiting for the town planner to coordinate a date. I think that's been done and that's been discussed. That's why I'm concerned that it's just not been on the books.
We have discussed it. We just, the Affordable Housing Trust discussed it. They're also discussed going to the Finance Committee. So they've already been to the Board of Selectmen. So I think one of the things they've also discussed is that, Chris is right here. He can answer anything that the rest of the board will know. So you have an in, and he can answer any questions that the rest of the group
I think
could
answering
answer.
questions and having an agenda item and having a presentation is different. I think there's different parts of that public notice that is lacking with just an open conversation. So that's my concern.
Okay, tell you what, I can't speak for the Housing Authority, unfortunately, but I can certainly ask the Affordable Housing Trust and extend an invitation to the Housing Authority at our next meeting to attend a meeting of the planning board, and then we'll set it up.
Ron, this is Mary. It was me that has asked a few times for the Housing Authority Trust to come to talk to the planning board. And it's just never been scheduled, but I do have some concern that it's going as a non-binding vote for a potential change in land use, yet it hasn't gone in front of the planning board. So that's my concern.
okay, any other comments?
I don't know, but Manchester by the Sea too has their hand up. I don't know who that is, but.
This is Sarah Mellish.
Oh,
Hey,
Sarah.
Hey, Sarah.
Sorry about that. I just wanted to let the board know that the Manchester Affordable Housing Trust is coming to the FinCom meeting tomorrow night at 7 to present the proposal with respect to the DPW site. So
Mary,
if you want to call
Mary,
in.
Mary, can you attend as the liaison?
What time is that, Sarah?
7.
At 7. And so are they presenting to FinCom the financials, or?
Yes, they'll be presenting the financials and explaining why the DPW site is crucial for the project at little to no cost.
But just to clarify, it's not specific dollars.
Right. It's, you know, we went out to RFP in, I think, 2018, and nobody responded. So we hired a consultant to figure out what was feasible. And what they determined was we couldn't add enough units to the senior sites to make it economically feasible. So therefore they needed a DPW site or a similar site in order to have market rate units to subsidize the cost. Because the Manchester Housing Authority is very low income and only 30% of income. And we have to double the number of units there in order to proceed. So they're making a financial, and this is prior to hiring a developer. They need a referendum from the town that they would consider including the DPW site before they can go out with an RFP to developers to find out if anybody's interested.
So Sarah, will you be able to go through that scale of, okay, 30 units at the DPW site if the land is given to the developer, 40 units if it's at a reduced cost, 50 units if the developer has, you know, are you going through those iterations?
See, that's what we can't do. It's
Right.
Right.
We don't
I
know
believe, right. I believe it's one assumption of X number of dollars for the DPW site, and here are the number of market rate units we would need to provide the cash flow to subsidize the Manchester Housing Authority.
So is that being written in the article to vote that, you know, the town needs to sell this piece of land for this amount of money to get these number of units?
I think it's
No.
more generic.
Yes. Would the
Okay.
town be willing to partially or entirely reduce the cost of the land
I mean,
as part of the transaction?
right. There would be another vote before town meeting regarding the actual transfer of the property. So we just need the town to say yes or no to figure out whether we can go out for an RFP.
Yeah, and I guess back to my original point, I do wish that as the land use board that we had been given that same courtesy of kind of coming to us and saying, you know, does a town piece of land, is it feasible for this purpose?
Well,
Right.
Mary, I take a little bit of offense at that. I mean, I've been telling you all what was happening for meeting after meeting. I don't understand why you say that. Is this a surprise?
Well, it's within a more formal process. If it's a one-off of, you know, kind of, oh, here's the blurb and do you have any questions? I think it merits two boards sitting together and discussing what the full impact is. I'm not knocking what your updates have been, but I think it needs to be board to board, not, you know, just the liaison giving a report back.
And I think the Manchester Housing Authority wanted to get this article on the fall town meeting to be able to proceed with an RFP, and the RFP will define what the conditions are, and that will come before the town.
And Ron, may I?
Go ahead, Sue.
I would just say that Chris is not a liaison to the board. He's the board's representative on the Affordable Housing Trust. So he has much more, it's much more a formal position, and it's not just the report. He is the board's representative on that board.
We're a little off
I
topic. This
completely
wasn't
hear
on
that,
the-
but to use Chris's words, and Chris, I'm not trying to make this argumentative, but your words were, you told us, right? It wasn't a discussion. So I think that's where it's comes back. And so when I had a conversation, just in open disclosure, when I had a conversation with the fire chief, he basically said the only lot that's left in town to have a joint fire safety building is the same spot. So where is this conversation going? I'm just saying, Sue, I see you shaking your head, and I'm not just frontaling what your thoughts are, but the conversation has never happened. So yes, you're talking about this and that, but the fire chief said something else, and it is land use, and we are supposed to be discussing these, not telling each other. So that's just my concern. And
So Christina, this, conversations are two-way. I make a presentation, no one says anything. I'm assuming everybody's okay with it unless somebody objects.
well, I
I have
didn't
never-
realize until, if I didn't have a conversation with the fire chief about the blasting, I wouldn't have known that he thought the only piece of land left to have a joint fire safety building was that same piece of land. So I don't know, is one department running with something versus another? Are we not looking back and doing our job with this one piece of land?
So let me just tell you, I've since had a conversation with the fire chief. He assumed that the lot was 7 acres because he needs 5. The actual buildable lot there is 2.5 acres, as we've determined. 2 or 3 acres of it is already under a conservation restriction. When he understood that, now he understands that will not fit his need either. So we've had a number of fire chiefs. It's a little difficult to get them all on the same page, but there was a master facilities study done not that long ago that kind of went through all of this and it didn't use that one as that site. So I don't think it's fair to say that one department is running and not speaking to the
So
other.
where is this facility study? I haven't seen that.
Yeah, so it was a draft study. It's I don't have I think it might be in hard copy. I would have to find where the final draft is.
But I mean, if we're talking about and we're going to produce reports of what the potential use of this land is and promote it, I think this is all important information. So if you could forward that report to us, that would be great.
I'll see what I can find. I don't know if it's available, but I will find out. And I say that because I don't know if they got final blessing from the Board of Selectmen to see if they wanted to release it. I think it was a little less than par.
It was quite a while ago, and I think it was done by, it was not, preceded the master plan by quite a bit, I think. It was the study that I sat in on, which was kind of a needs study, and it was, I think there was some thought that there was flaws in it, but you better dig it out. And
Also, my point is, if that's where the fire and police need to go, maybe we should think about whether housing should go there. I think fire and, in my opinion, my personal opinion, fire and police is more important than housing if we need to redo those two departments.
I don't think the neighbors want a fire station there, but I could be wrong. And I should also just point out for the record.
I don't think we've done that, Chris. I don't think that we can just say that. I don't think
Christina, we have a master plan that was adopted by this board that said the best use for the DPW land should be considered for housing. So this isn't coming out of the blue. This is something we've already been talking about for years.
There was a few people that did a survey, Chris. Yes.
The survey, it's called the master plan, Christina.
So where
master
will the
plan.
new fire station go? Can you tell me that at this point?
What does the master plan say? I don't know.
All right, then it doesn't. So let's think about it before we jump to conclusions and endorse certain pieces of land. That's all I'm saying. We haven't had a discussion. That is my only comment. We have not had that discussion.
Okay, this stuff's not on the agenda. Let's move to adjourn. Take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Seconded.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Roll call, Ms. Clayton,
yes.
Ms. Delicio,
Yes.
Ms. Foley,
Yes.
Mr. Olney,
Yes.
Ms. Tenney.
Yes.
Okay, we're adjourned. See you in 2 weeks.
Thank you. Thank you, Sue.